Welcome back to the 6-5 Summit. I'm Shelley Kramer, founding partner of Futurum Research, and on behalf of my team at Futurum and the team at Moor Insights and Strategies, welcome. We're glad to have you. In this spotlight session, Futurum's Daniel Newman sits down with Salesforce SVP of Market Strategy, John Taschek, to talk about how Salesforce over the years has shifted from a software company to a platform company and the impact that's having on both customers and the industry as a whole. As somebody who's watched this transformation take place, I am really interested to hear this conversation. So let's go see what they have to say.
Adios, status quo. See you later, elevator. Bye-bye, shirt and tie. So long, stubborn silos. Farewell, frustrating commutes, and per my last email, goodbye, bloated inboxes. Adios, status quo. Hello, success. Hello, change. Well, hello, wellness. Healthy again. Hello, tech put to good use. Hello, single source of truth. Hello, new skills, new trails to blaze. Uniting teams in all new ways. Growth, it has been too long. Let's work from anywhere.
Come on!
Hello, pioneering innovation. New ways to work across towns and nations. More customer delight. Ooh, elation. With success at every destination. And while we're talking change creation, how about equality that shows, not tells? Companies that share the wealth. A planet that sustains itself. It's up to businesses to help. Hello, future. Hello, trust. Let's succeed from anywhere. All of us.
Wow, I like that video every time I see it. John, welcome to the 6-5 Summit. Excited to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me, Daniel. Salesforce does good videos, if nothing else.
Yeah, you know what? I always love it. It's good energy, good transition. And if you're attending the 6-5 Summit, you've probably seen a lot of me. So it's always good to see a little bit of someone else. And John, you're one of those people that I was super thrilled to have here. Personally invited you to join me for this interview. I want to spend some time talking platforms with you and hopefully catching everybody up, because Salesforce has been in a pretty big, shift in its business. And I think it's been a really positive shift. I think the company's gaining momentum, it's expanding, and it certainly isn't just the sales CRM company. That's for sure.
Definitely not. Sales used to be equated with CRM 20 years ago. It's now anything that connects with a customer. So it's much more complex, bigger systems. And that's where we're playing now.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that you said that 20 years ago. By the way, I think I was still in college back then. So I just like to remind everybody I'm pretty young, even though I just turned 40 not that long ago. Speaking of 20 years ago, speaking of human interest, as I've gotten to know you, John, one of the really interesting things that I found out was that you were very early in terms of being a Salesforce employee. I can't remember off the top of my head which number, but you've been there to see a lot of this change that I was referring to. You've been part of this growth, and you've watched the company really become a force, and a bigger force in more spaces. No pun intended, maybe a little pun intended. Talk a little bit about what it was like to sort of be involved early and how it's changed throughout this time that you've been there.
Oh, yes, definitely. So I've been there 18 years now. I've been at Salesforce in San Francisco. There were 300 people at the company at the time. My employee number is 450. A few had left because of, we were changing. There's some number skips here and there and things like that. But 300 people, the whole company could fit on the third floor of the Landmark building in downtown San Francisco. And now we have 58,000 people. It's dramatically different. There's about 57,000 people who I've never met in person, but know online in some capacity in some way. But it's amazing. What's more amazing is that the culture has more or less stayed the same. We had this kind of culture of Ohana, and which means family in Hawaiian, and we really believe it. And so we have a lot of things with trust that are in our values. And it used to take 6 months or more for when we hired employees from outside of Salesforce to come in to get used to the culture, because they acknowledged it but didn't believe it. But it's a real thing. It's Mark Benioff's vision to have a company with this culture. It's been fascinating, and I still think we have that culture now through several acquisitions, through several more employees organically hired. But that's the real amazing part of Salesforce.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I think that's, you guys use that word. Was it Ohana, right? Just tell everyone a little bit. Can you give just a little bit of what's the Ohana?
Well, Hana is a Hawaiian word for family, and family is not just your genetic family. It's your whole family of partners, people who are in your ecosystem, people who are not even in your ecosystem but are related. Maybe they're Salesforce customers, trailblazers, the trailhead community. It's millions of people is what we call our Ohana. And if you treat everyone with respect like a family, sure, there's going to be little bits of dysfunction here and there, but overall, you are one family, and that is the way we view the Salesforce community.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. So I want to spend a little time talking platforms with you. I've been on a number of the analyst briefings. I've been watching from afar and watching from within as part of the analyst community that covers Salesforce. And I've just been listening. And this platform centric movement is becoming more and more what I'm watching and witnessing across the industry, across the ecosystem, building around a platform. And Salesforce certainly seems to be very invested. Kind of, what are you generally seeing there, though? Are you seeing what I'm seeing? Is this sort of the way of the future, is really building around the platform?
Yeah, well, the first thing I want to define is the platform itself. It can be an operating system to a developer. It can be frameworks that are there. It could be sets of tools. But really, it's all of that plus a community that has similar minded goals, because the platform involves people. And if you take people out of the equation, you just have some kind of software stack, kind of like the OSI models from the 90s again. But it's more than that. And the platforms have changed because I think, in a way, developers used to use platforms to write applications that solved singular problems. And platforms today are much more complex. There's a lot of services that are built into the infrastructure that they're using. There are lots of automation that are already included. There are libraries full of things, and those types of automations that people need to run business. And we're focused on that business automation. So our platform is business and business outcomes. And if we focus on that part, then we're really driving ahead. And I think that's going to be our future, is really what the outcome of a customer-centric enterprise application is. That's our platform. It's the Salesforce platform, and we call it the Customer 360 platform. It's gone through a couple of name changes, but generally the whole thing has been the same since 2003 when we came out with S-Force.
Yeah, I kind of like the way you broke it down, though, because you did mention platform probably isn't ubiquitous. It's not quite as bad as like unified communications in terms of the disparity of how people might define it, but not everybody looks at platform and defines it the same way. It certainly has evolved over time as companies are going more east to west and north to south to some extent. you really do have to think what encompasses a platform, right? What are the things that entail? And you kind of broke it into four pretty simple bullets, John, that I think is worth repeating: infrastructure, frameworks, automation, and community. And you really have to look, are all of those parts included, or else it really isn't a platform per se.
That's right. And every company can call themselves a platform company in some capacity. Not every platform is going to reach, I don't know, the tipping point of like success, where it's going to be a lot of people developing, a lot of systems that are running on it as they become more and more mission critical, as their customer, for companies to manage their customers, to companies who are connecting their customers together. Not everyone is going to be successful that way. And you can see it. There are companies out there who make great platforms that are focused on solving individual or departmental outcomes, to bringing teams together, for example, as opposed to the wider, what is your customer? How can your customer be successful? And that's what Salesforce has always been, how to make customers successful. It's been there since I've been there. That's 2003.
Yeah. I mean, in the end, that's the question we're always answering. I tend to couple employees as customers, but I always say, how do we make people like working and love the company? And I said that employee advocacy tends to always find its way to your customers. But in the end, we don't develop technology to solve technology problems. We develop technology to solve business problems, people problems, human problems. And so if we make it better for all involved, we tend to there's a business that you can build around that, and momentum that can be built around that. So yeah, I definitely see what you're saying. I think, you're heading in that direction. I want to challenge you a little bit here. So like I said, I've watched Salesforce for a long time. I mentioned this in the beginning. I think the company, tended to always be about simplification. So in the early, I still remember the buttons, right? The I love software buttons. And in the beginning, it was very software centric, SaaS centric. You kind of wanted to be the CRM of what everyone else was. And over time, you've changed to be more of a platform, which has required architectural changes. You've become more hybrid. You are incorporating premise, or more notoriously premise-based acquisitions like Tableau. Talk about why that had to happen. Why did that shift have to be made? There are people that say it's the best thing that's ever happened that you're going this route, and there's people that have challenged it and said, I wonder why Salesforce has changed. You probably have some insights on why the company has gone that way.
Sure, and you said a lot, and I'm not sure where to start. There's simplification. Yes, we always want to be about simplification, and we believe simplification over time leads to more agility, and so that's one aspect of what you mentioned, and the move toward what you're saying is hybrid. That's a unique take that you have, I think. It may be the common take, but it's not the take that we have inside of Salesforce. We are a cloud company we've kind of invented or pioneered the business model for cloud in the enterprise space. There was SaaS before and things like that, but the way we do it is the way we've done it since the beginning. Now, there are customers who are leading edge customers that have, a lot of experience doing the first things that they need to, the pioneers, basically. They're always pursuing the best software, the best technology. They were the Salesforce customers for years. We were there. They were high tech. They were in life sciences, insurance, financial. They were all over the planet, and with different models. Now, as you get into companies that are more mature, of course, they're going to have stacks of software that haven't changed. Some of them haven't changed in 20 years. Some may not have changed in 30 years. This is the stacks, right? It's not like they're all running mainframes with COBOL or anything, but their stacks are they don't need to change them. All right, well, what do you do if you want to do digital transformation, which is definitely being pushed right now in the pandemic timeframe? They need to move faster. they need to, what we call, unlock that data. They have the data. There's nothing wrong with the system, but they need to get the data into a place that can have digital transformation. So what we did was we acquired MuleSoft, which has the integration platform to bring that data into a place that the customer can go into the cloud faster. They can do the digital transformation without getting stuck, because if they didn't have that integration, they can't do it because they need that data. It's their data. And there's probably workflows in there that they need too. And so they need it. Okay, so MuleSoft had a large on-premises base. That's okay, because they need to run it on-premises to get that data. And with Tableau, that was also, they had a large on-premises base, but that's where the data was. But so now we can integrate from the infrastructure level with MuleSoft, and we can analyze it from the cloud level or the on-premises level from the top and look at visualizations of that data across the board. We don't find that we're changing. We're finding that we're allowing our customers to unlock that data and move ahead so that we are much more customer centric. To me, that's not hybrid so much. It's a step toward cloud.
Yeah, and first of all, it's always a good interaction when analysts and vendors can have a good debate. And by the way, I don't even know that I say my view is so one is right and one is wrong. It's almost just we're getting used to waking up and seeing enterprise technology companies change. There were companies that said we're only going to ever do public cloud, and now they're offering all kinds of premise-based solutions for companies. And we see, and by the way, this is just part of, I think, the evolution of trying to meet the customer where they are. And whether that's through software to the infrastructure, or from infrastructure to the software, there are complexities. And by the way, I think hybrid and platforms are an important catalyst for enabling customers, like you said, to unlock what is in their systems of record, what is at their disposal through first and third party data in order to deliver those world-class experiences. In the end, the thing we talked about a couple of questions back, right? So I actually support it. I think the move, when you've followed a company for a long time and you're used to a certain way a company goes to market, and then that way it goes to market changes, I think it's almost like when a company changes the body style in a car you really like. And then you look at the new one. I still remember this with BMW. I'm like, oh, I love the turn of the Millennium 5 Series. And then when they changed them and they got real curved, I didn't like it for a long time. But then by like 2003, I'm like, God, that looks so much better than the old body. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes I think we need to let the business model evolve. And I think you guys have made some very clever acquisitions. MuleSoft started that route. Tableau, the pending completion of your deal with Slack to continue to both vertically integrate and horizontally build solutions that customers need so you can grow the business, grow the TAM, and grow the opportunity. So I think the approach is right, but I think sometimes as an outsider, if we don't question that, right, as an analyst, if we're not questioning that motivation, we might miss a chance to unlock some really good insights that the market would want to know about. So speaking of market wanting to know about, let's unlock the future. I've gotten to listen to you and several other Salesforce futurists on some. You guys do these great monthly community briefings. I would invite everyone, but it's for analysts, so you're gonna have to put your analyst credentials in and then ask. But in all seriousness, they've been great. We've heard your futurists talk. We've heard people talking about COVID and the pandemic and the impact that's going to have on the business. You've talked about the platform. You've talked about a lot of things. Talk a little bit about where you see it, all of this heading. I made a mention, John, of how public cloud and infrastructure is moving more towards software and hybrid. You guys are moving more towards hybrid architecture. I mean, where does this all go? What is this going to look like in a couple of years when it feels like everybody's crossed the chasms?
Yeah, I still think we're in the infancy there. It's going to be several years more before we cross that chasm, and maybe we never will. Because there's kind of a pendulum shift from one, set of services to another. Right now, the tech stacks are, the infrastructure service companies are adding lots of services as more and more every month, pretty much. I do like the way you framed it, though. Like, where are we going? It's hard to tell, but I know, I believe it's going to be a data-centric world. It already has been a data-centric world. It's just been ignored for a long time. And we've focused so much on getting data into our systems. We haven't really focused on what to do with that data and the actions around them. And you see companies pop up, some automation company here, they're trying to do one parts of workflow. You have automation and meeting compliance issues. That's kind of a holdup in some ways, but we're working through those. So I feel like in a few years, it's really, maybe it is unlock is still the same word, is unlock that data so that you can not only put better quality data into your system, you get better answers out of the system, and then you can apply rules, first of all, AI and machine learning second, and then third, the combination of those put together into automation to get you actions that can make differences. And in the future, what we need to do is prove that those have value, that they're competitively positioned, they help your company competitively positioned against other companies that don't have that. And then there's going to be another generation of haves and have-nots. There's going to be the companies that have that automation, have good quality data, have actions, and they're going to be successful. And then the companies that don't have that, they're going to fall behind. It happens all the time in every generation of technology, and I think it's going to happen again.
It's a great vision. I think you got leapfrogging as a constant, right? We're going to have that constant leapfrogging. Companies going to have a breakthrough. Like right now, we've got this first party, third party dilemma. And 2 years ago, it really wasn't a thing. We all kind of knew on the cursory, on the tertiary, that there was something that was going to happen with, GDPR and the ability for us to keep mining all this data that's just been given to the world because of things like social. And now we're seeing Apple with its IDFA and its opt-in went from opt-out to opt-in. And now you've got a low opt-in rate. And so companies that have been really building momentum by basically buying access to this almost infinite amount of customer data are having to completely reevaluate their platforms, their technologies, their approach. And all I'm saying is, so they leapfrogged ahead by learning that method, by figuring out how to do that. And now they're going to have to learn how to get people to opt in again and how to choose people to choose to want to provide data to your brand to provide the best experience. And there are certainly already haves and have-nots in that space. But that's just one example of unlocking the data and why companies really need to focus hard on that first party data. But I think you've got a really good sort of grasp, John, on where it's going. And that's why we're so glad to have you here today.
Yeah, thanks. And it is definitely a changing world as far as the opt-in, opt-out, and first-party data, and how complex that is because it changes by region, by country, and sometimes market, depending on like bunches of regions. So what the laws are there, and it gets very complex. That's why I feel like we're really positioned well, because we have technologies like Hyperforce that allows us to put our use data centers in other regions, and we've had privacy and security in the system from the beginning, so that the data can just reside in certain systems. And then we're heading to that cookieless world, so marketing is going to dramatically change as well, and it's going to be a big challenge. But I think it's the right thing to do. I think that people do need to have that choice of whether their data is exposed and how it's used and what value they get out of if they do expose it. I think there are going to be some companies that are in trouble because of that. But generally, that's why, again, we come back. Trust has been our number one value since the beginning. If you trust the vendor, you might have a better chance of being successful with that vendor.
Absolutely. And I think that's a really great way to end the session. John Taschek, thank you so much for joining me here at the 6.5 Summit. Pleasure to have you. A ton of expertise. Hope everybody out there really enjoyed the session, learned a lot, plenty of more to come. John, I'll let you go. Thanks for tuning in, joining us here.
Daniel, it's awesome to see you. And it's been too long. We've got to meet. So I'll join you in Texas someday there.
Soon or later, we will get together in person. But for now, I'm so glad we were able to do this event. All right, everybody. On to the next session. John Taschek, everyone. We'll see you later.